Welcome back everybody to another lecture. Today's unit is Monitor Work Operations. The unit code is SITXMGT001. Today we'll be going through all of the slides, so feel free to pause wherever you need to and come back to the video on a later time frame. You're more than welcome to pause and revisit any sections that you are confused about. We will be pausing throughout the video, without the lecture, where we get to the activities. We will talk about them and go through them, and then you will have time to pause and complete the activity. So let's get on with it. So monitor and improve workplace operations. 1.1, monitor efficiency and service levels through close contact and day-to-day operations. So essentially we're going to be talking about observing the staff members that work with you, observing how they deal with customers, how your customers are responding to the type of service that you're providing, and things like that through the day-to-day operations. So monitoring efficiency. You should have continuous process for the monitoring of the business efficiency, so you should always be monitoring. So it's not for a specific period and then you stop. You should keep continuing on to monitor. It will be necessary for the supervisor or manager to maintain regular contact with the team members and carry out routine inspections of the workplace environment. Regular tours should be conducted to ensure that suitable standards of efficiency and service are being maintained. So you don't want to, slack off. As in, if you as the manager or the supervisor slack off and stop monitoring everybody and see how efficient they're working, the workers will also, slack off because they have no one overseeing them. There's no repercussions of if they do a task slower or they do one less task per day. So you need to be on top of that and make sure you monitor all these activities that are happening at your workplace. Employee performance may be monitored in the following ways. Automated recording systems, so through video cameras. There's also, you could have conferencing cameras on, which would live stream all the happenings and ongoing activities at the workplace. Manual recording systems, sampling, visual monitoring, and video and audio recording. So some things that are previously recorded and then displayed for observation. So activity 1A, outline 3 ways in which efficiency is monitored within your organization. So if I was talking about Equish Restaurant as a whole, we monitor efficiency through our sales, right? So that's the first place of contact. So if, let's say, we're recording the sales through our point of sale system, then we're seeing how many sales are we making per hour. If we're making, 10 sales worth at least a minimum of $100, so we're making about $1,000 an hour. If then let's say the following day the sales drop down to only 5 sales per hour worth $100, so that's $500. So then we can identify why and where the sales are lacking. So we can do that through the use of computer systems and point of sale systems. We can also do that by watching how much stock is being used. Another way is we can use cameras, we can use video recording and audio recordings from our workplace to observe the staff, so to see how much output they're doing. If we physically see that they are not actually working to their utmost potential, then we can review and set instructions upon those workers on what they should be doing for the future. There's also, we could do things such as being there personally, doing first-hand observations and observing all the staff to see if they're actually performing what they're supposed to be. So physically in there, first-hand observation, We could do monitoring via video and audio recordings. And then the third one we could do is our point of sale systems and stock information systems, and any online or location-based software systems that we're using to record sales and stock. Identified 3 aspects of customer service that are monitored by your organization. So 3 aspects are, in our business, is we look at how much time we've taken to complete a dish, and the response time between when we've gotten the order to when the customer has received the food. We're also looking at feedback and reviews, such as on Google, on Facebook, on TripAdvisor, any websites that we're getting feedbacks on, or even physically if customers are giving us feedback at the counter or at the table. Other things could be such as phone calls on how quickly are we completing orders over the phone, how quickly is our timing through our online ordering systems, and from start to finish, how long it's taking for us to get the order and to produce the order and hand it off to the driver. So we're looking at the timings of our production. So if we've got any complaints, we'll do responses to those complaints to those customers if we find them legitimate. And just if we're looking at mistakes done by the staff in general, we will review why those mistakes are happening, if we can improve on the processes that are existing, and how to avoid them in the future. So complete those questions, pause the video, and when you're ready, come back and we can move on to the next one. 1.2. Ensure workplace operations support overall organizational goals and quality assurance initiatives. Organizational goals. It will be necessary to establish your organizational goals in order to gauge the level of progress and success within your business. The organizational goals may be outlined in business or strategic plans. You should have established systems for the monitoring of workplace operations and employee performance, such as timesheets, flowcharts, and progress reports may all be referenced when you're doing this activity. So if you've got, plans for your business, or if you're following plans set out by your managers or your owners or directors of the company, they will have a strategic plan that you will need to implement as a manager or a service manager or a section manager or a restaurant manager, kitchen manager, whatever it might be. You will need to follow, and you will need to note down what the results are and where you could improve on. Quality assurance initiatives. Quality assurance relates to the process that are carried out within your organization. Employees may be expected to act in systematic and organized ways to ensure the maintenance of quality standards. There are 2 main aspects of quality assurance that should be taken into consideration. You will have to ensure that products and services are fit for purpose and right first time. So essentially, you don't want to be making mistakes and giving customers the wrong food. You don't want to make them feel like they've been cheated out of the money that they've been paid. You want to make sure that they feel accepted and appreciated, that they've come to your business and given you their hard-earned cash. So you really want to make sure all your employees understand that fact as well, so that we're understanding that we need to give quality for exchange in dollars. So activity 1B, describe the methods that are used within your workplace to ensure that business operations support the overall organizational goals. So in our workplace, we're thinking about supporting our staff during their training phase, when they're coming in newly into their role, or if they're upskilling, providing them that accurate training. If they're moving into a new role, being mentored by a person that was in that role before, or someone that is experienced within that role. We could be providing things such as samples or examples of things that they should be doing within their work role. If we're talking about chefs, chefs are usually observing new cooks that are coming into the kitchen to produce newer dishes, and then they can, you know, once they are happy with the output that they're making, then they are okay to work on their own. But until they get the sign off from the chef that they are able to work by themselves on their own accord, they are being observed by a appointed chef or cook that is experienced in that position. And we're also looking at timesheets, we're looking at flow charts, we're looking at any progress reports that we've made, any comments or feedback that we've gotten from customers or even staff within the organization about those employees. We're taking all that to account and providing adequate support during their work time. Number 2, what is quality assurance and how is it ensured within your organization? So quality assurance, we're making sure that any product or any service that we're providing is, accompanied by the utmost importance, and that we, give that confidence within our staff so that they can move that confidence towards our customers so that they believe in our product and they ultimately become happy with what they have received for the money that they've paid us. So and if they're not happy, we will try and match their expectations with what we can produce. So if anything does become broken or if we serve them a incorrect product, we always try and service them in a better manner, give them an extra item or give them a discount or give them a special offer next time. And especially if it was our mistake, we will try and rectify that. But we try and avoid mistakes at all costs. We try and put out the best product possible so our customers have that confidence within us that they will always get quality whenever they come to our business to purchase anything. All right, so complete those 2 questions, pause the video, come back when you're ready, and we can move on to the next one. 1.3, identify quality problems and issues and make appropriate adjustments to procedures and systems with relevant approvals. Identifying quality problems and issues. So you're doing the Pareto analysis, flow charts, check sheets, cause and effect diagrams. So in this case, essentially we know what flow charts will do, we know what we can use for check sheets, but if we're doing cause and effect diagrams or Pareto analysis, we're looking at how can doing the least solve the most. So we want to try and put in the least amount of effort to get the most solutions or the largest amount of product or solve the most amount of problems in that case. So making appropriate adjustments, procedures and systems, you should develop a variety of solutions to problems associated with your business process and systems. It will be necessary to consider the budget and period of time required for successful implementation. You should account for reduced productivity as a result of implementing new procedures, monitor the employees to ensure that they are using the new procedures and systems as expected and as your business leaders have planned for them to do. Make adjustments to the following procedures and systems. So you need to adjust your administration systems for monitoring health and safety situations, the service standards that you want to aim for, any technology that needs to be replaced or purchased, and the work practices that you need to adjust or replace. So for this activity, you'll need to gain appropriate approvals and adjustments for any procedures and systems. The following tools may be used during this activity. So you would essentially need to get approvals from who? We need approvals from our managers, our supervisors, any staff members that are responsible. So you want to note that down for whoever you're getting the approvals from. And then you're thinking about, okay, would I be making changes to? I would be making changes to administration systems. I would be making changes to any new equipment. I would be making changes to any new training that we need to implement, and then monitor that after the training has been conducted, if it has been effective or not. So we would essentially try and manage our expectation, but also at least hit the minimum goals that we need to. Otherwise, we need to find out why we're not doing that and what the possible solutions to achieving those goals could be. So complete that question. You don't have to mention much, just mention what you've done, how you've used your flowcharts. So you could be using your flowcharts to show what sort of outputs you've had within your staff members, within your team. You could be using cause and effect diagrams to show what you did, such as in training or new equipment, and how it had an effect throughout the business and through your staff members. You could be talking about check sheets and display your data in a progressive and structured form so it can be followed by everybody. You could be doing the Pareto analysis to see what are the least amount of actions and rectifications you need to do to have the most amount of output, at least to get the most amount of product. So things like that you want to mention. Complete that. Pause the video to do that. Once you're done, come back and we'll move on to the next one. Okay. 1.4. Proactively consult with colleagues about ways to improve efficiency and service levels, including potential for new technology and other innovations. So for us in the hospitality industry, we're always trying to innovate in the sense that what are our customers wanting. So especially we're moving towards a less fuss, more technology style of customer service, where we're having less interaction between people. So the customer service staff essentially need to know how to use newer technologies in the workplace, so our customers that are wanting to use technology are able to do so, and we can interpret that information and then allow them to be future customers and ongoing customers, so that they are happy to deal with us through digital means and not face-to-face if they wish not to. So these successful steps will be followed by successful consultation, deciding which issues need to be addressed and who should be consulted, deciding on a suitable, quiet and private location for group discussion, providing guidance and outlining expectations for the employees, noting key points for later reference. So this is all about the meetings that you'll undertake, what you should be talking about, which issues you should be addressing, all those things at the same time, and making sure that you are not interrupted. It's a proper location. You're not just doing it in the kitchen where everybody's working. You're not doing it at a time where you have maybe a dinner rush or a lunch rush, and you're having a meeting now where everybody needs to now go back to their your sections, and now the meeting is left in the middle. So you want to make sure you have appropriate timing. Maybe start an hour earlier for the day and then have a meeting, have maybe some lunch organized so that there's no customers, talk about it, then move on to normal everyday tasks. Consider these ways of improving workplace efficiency, maintaining commitment and satisfaction in the workplace, providing flexible working opportunities, identifying and removing unnecessary business processes, making changes to systems and procedures, and introducing new technologies. Innovation may be encouraged in the following ways: encouraging collaboration and discussion between employees, openly discussing and considering innovative ideas, encouraging and rewarding contributions of staff members at different levels. So this is all about including everybody. This has a lot to do with diversity as well. If you have one sort of person in your kind of business, you will only have one sort of idea. So include a lot of diverse people, so you have diverse range of ideas and experiences and cultural knowledge. so you can use that to your advantage in your business. Consider the use of the following technologies: websites, social media, email, mobile technology, business software. So anything that can make it a bit easier for you, I would recommend doing so, because the hospitality industry is hard as it is. If anything can make it easier, it allows us to focus on the things that can't can't be made any easier. So we can focus more time on that, and anywhere we can, lose a couple of minutes or hours, we're happy to do so. If we're enabling people to, reach out to us by social media, leaving posts, and then we'll get back to them as soon as possible instead of waiting on a phone and somebody being there, we can move that personnel to another important job instead of waiting by the phone to answer any inquiries. So think about what you could implement in your business if they are not already doing so. So activity 1B, we're looking at you to arrange and participate in workplace consultation about ways of improving efficiency and service levels. You should encourage an open discussion and take note of any methods that are recommended. You should also take the opportunity to discuss the potential for new technologies and other innovations. So essentially, if we were going to organize a meeting for the Ekush restaurant, we would talk about what sort of issues that we would need to address, such as could be timing, could be do we make pre-made food so we could serve customers quicker, could be can we introduce more online delivery systems so we have more customers through online purchasing. We could also say, okay, should we implement a purchasing system on our own website so we could have online ordering instead of doing it through a third party? And then, you would decide on a quiet place on where to have the meeting. You decide the appropriate timing. You decide on noting down the key points and then allowing everybody to speak and have their own input, and you note those inputs down and then think about them critically and constructively, and then actively encourage everybody to communicate with each other and give their ideas within that meeting. As you go along, you should be thinking about how to provide flexible working opportunities for everybody and how to introduce new technologies. You should be thinking about how to introduce newer technologies such as websites, social media, all those things into your business, and how you can make a profit or attract attention. So nobody reads the newspaper anymore, but what do? They go on social media. Social media is the new newspaper. People sit in their toilets and read articles for hours instead of reading a newspaper. So we need to get in front of those articles instead of being in the newspaper that nobody reads. We're also thinking about allowing everybody to collaborate with each other, bring out ideas. We're also going to reward all staff members. We're also going to be acknowledging their input at any contribution that we take on board. And even if we don't take it on board, we'll still acknowledge that they've done great contributions throughout the meeting process. Okay. All right, so note down any other things that you want to and you feel like is important for your meeting that you've done with your team members, and then unpause the video and we can continue on to the next one. 1.5, provide feedback to colleagues and management to inform future planning. These steps should be followed when giving constructive feedback. Think about the issue and how it affects your organization. Ensure that the employees has time and find a suitable place to provide the feedback. Provide details about the issue in a non-confrontational and easily understandable manner. Clarify understanding and make corrections if necessary. Come up with a practical and effective solution. Ensure that the feedback is specific and constructive. Make positive statements and offer recommendations. Use examples when referring to aspects of behavior. Thank the manager for listening and responding to the feedback. Conduct reviews and focus on positive changes that have been made in response to feedback. Now, 1E. Specify 5 steps that should be followed when giving constructive feedback to your colleagues. Identify 4 rules that should be followed when giving feedback to management. Okay, these ones are a bit easy, so we talked about them before. So when giving feedback to colleagues, we're thinking about how this will, affect the organization. We're thinking about, finding a suitable place to provide the feedback, not in a public place. We're thinking about any issues of confrontational, or we can provide it in a easily digestible way. We're trying to think about understanding and making any corrections if possible for those situations that may arise. We're also thinking about how effective is that solution, and can there be a better one, or is that the ultimate solution? And for question 2, we're thinking about, is the feedback constructive and specific enough? Are we making positive statements and offering any future recommendations? Are we referring to aspects of the behavior observed, and are we thanking the manager and responding and listening to their feedback accordingly and being respectful? And are we conducting reviews, and are we focusing on positive changes that have been made in response to the feedback that we received? So complete those questions, pretty simple, like I said, and then we can move on to the next one. So unpause the video when you're ready, and we'll move on to the next one. 1.6, identify and take opportunities to evaluate current and emerging industry trends and practices for relevance to own work situation. Online tool used for the identification of industry trends. So we've got Google, we've got online product reviews, keyword mapping. There's various ways to figure out trends. Other sources of information regarding industry trends include trade journals, forums and discussion boards, online news websites, podcasts and videos, networking events, customer comments and feedback, competitive information, internal business trends. You can also use apps like, right now you've got Instagram, which is very food heavy. You could see what trends are happening in that section. You could check out things such as websites such as Foodora, Taste, what food areas are they focusing on, things like that. The critical analysis of industry trends and practices may involve comparing and contrasting, reflecting on the steps taken, critiquing and challenging any things that might come up, considering the merit of what was done, and if we need to maybe adjust in any way, discussing and debating with each other and making sure it's all respectful, making judgments about relevance of information and ideas, but not putting our own preconceived ideas, but allowing open communication, considering how ideas may be adapted. So this could be within our workplace. What we could adopt might not be the same for another business. So you got to think about what your situations are compared to somewhere else. Being able to draw links between research and own work. So you're thinking about, okay, what have specific industries done? What research and innovation have they made? And how can I implement that into my workplace? And going forward, how can I make more revenue for the business or myself using those topics and research? All right, specify 5 ways of identifying trends and practices that are relevant to your own work situation. So we're thinking about using social media. We could be doing posts on websites, we could be doing AdWords, we could be listing our website on Google Ads and then connecting our customers through there. We could be listing our business through Google Maps. We could be reading trade journals. We could be looking for internal business secrets or procedures that other businesses have that we could use, and trends that are growing within other businesses that we can adopt. Looking at competitors and what they're doing, collecting information from them, collecting information on customers and what future feedback they could provide us. Attending network events, doing professional development for the staff, introducing training, going on to forums and discussion boards, being a part of industry groups and clubs and things like that will keep you up to speed. Talking to your suppliers, they'll know what is selling more, what is selling less, so they could update you on things like that. Okay, just include 5 of them, and then we can move on to the next one. So identify 5 methods of critical analysis that may be used for the evaluation of trends. So we're drawing links between our own work and future research. We're thinking about the merit that they hold, the new trends hold, and how we could improve it or how we can implement it into our own business, critiquing it and challenging it in respectful ways. And then we're doing reflection on what we've done and how we've implemented it. Then we're comparing and contrasting to what we used to do and what we're going to be doing now. And then we're making judgments on, if it works for us or what we could do from this experience. And then ultimately, we're thinking about how we could adopt this into our business. All right. So think about, just note down 5 of the things that I've said, and we're done with that one. So when you're ready, unpause the video and we can move on to the next one. 1.7. Assess and respond to opportunities to improve sustainability of day-to-day operations. So we've got economic, we're thinking about the profitability of the business. Environmental, we're thinking about conserving the resources and handling our waste in a respectful and environmentally conscious way. We're thinking about social, such as cultural diversity and ethical practices and just being good human beings. Then we're talking about ensuring that the business processes are as clean and eco-friendly as possible, training employees in a sustainable work practice, contributing to charities and community projects, controlling hazards for the benefit of local communities, and increasing public awareness for sustainability issues. So this, we're on to 1G. So we're talking about carrying out an assessment to identify opportunities to improve the sustainability of the day-to-day operations within our business. We should be talking about the opportunity to carry out research and take note of most viable business methods for sustainability. So first of all, we want to try and remove as much paper from the business process as possible. So we should be looking at technologies that we can implement. Instead of having docket books, we can implement iPads and any ordering systems that would allow us to not use as much paper. We could use efficient equipment. We could talk about using less waste, so producing less food, ultimately producing less waste. If we're thinking about the customers, then are they sending back a lot of food on the plate? Okay, so then can we decrease the portion size so we're ultimately producing less waste there that is being thrown out? We're looking at any research that we could be looking for, such as potential trends that we could implement. We're looking at any bottlenecks or restrictions that we could be facing by the government for our sales or sales of a specific item, or if we need a licensed person to sell a specific item. We're looking at what sort of arrangements we can make. We need to come up with ideas such as new products that we could implement in our business, such as, let's say, if we're a restaurant, we could try and, I know it's radical, but maybe tell customers to bring in their own takeaway containers. So we could, instead of giving disposable items that will eventually just end up in landfill, the customers could bring in their containers and we could put in food for them in there, so we're not creating more waste, things like that. So we want to talk about all those kind of items that we could potentially put forward in the future, making sure everybody in your team is able to contribute. And yeah, so talk about all those things, write down what you did, and then we can move on to the next one. So your trainer will allow you to facilitate this. Okay. So when you're ready, write down what I've said and your own ideas and experiences within the class, and then come back and we can move on to the next one. 2.1, assess current workloads and schedule work to maximize efficiency and customer service quality within budget constraints. These steps should be followed during the workload assessments, carrying out observations and inspections, meeting with employees to discuss everyday working patterns, considering seasonal fluctuations and non-standard work, summarizing the information and creating graphs as representations of workload. For us in the hospitality industry, our work is very seasonal and it's not standard because we work at night. Secondly, we have seasons where it's really busy and seasons where it's really quiet. If you're a location-based business, it'll be even harder for you. Like if you're near a beach, it's going to be quieter in the winter. If you're near let's say a national park, you're going to be very busy when it's public holidays, but you won't be busy any other weekdays or things like that where you might not have local public around you. If you're in a suburb, you might be busier on weekdays compared to weekends where people go out to the city, things like that. Okay, you're considering those aspects when you're creating those assessments. So time management, working on a task at a time rather than attempting to multitask, setting reasonable and realistic time limits for the completion of tasks, creating achievable objectives which can be applied during the workday, maintaining a weekly schedule and planner, accounting for disruptions and disturbances. These time management strategies may be used planning at the beginning of every day, closing the email inbox and social media accounts which aren't being used for business purposes, not putting pressure on yourself to achieve every workplace task in the allocated time. So we can try our best, but if we don't succeed, we just keep moving forward. We don't, hone in and really focus on those things that we didn't achieve. We'll just, if we didn't reach 100%, why not? Okay. All right, if we got 80%, we'll focus on the 20% later on, and we move forward. Don't just get stuck on those little things. Consider these methods of improving workplace efficiency: asking for help and delegating tasks when required, planning communications and ensuring that they are clear and understandable, taking regular breaks and eating healthy food to maintain high levels of energy, creating an area for the storage of items that are regularly required during business meetings. Activity 2A, identify the 4 steps that should be followed during a workload assessment. So 4 steps, we could talk about summarizing the information. So we're thinking about carrying out observations and inspections within the workplace. We're looking at a meeting with the employees to discuss what we do every day, what sort of tasks we have to do, what we do at the end of the shift. We're looking at seasonal and location-based businesses such as hospitality. We're very seasonal. We have busy peaks, and then we have steady, drawn-out flows of business, and then we have peaks again depending on when the seasons occur. Some seasons will be better than others, such as winter will be a lot slower than summer as more people are out and frequenting businesses within the hospitality industry. Nowadays with improved technology, they're focusing more on delivery. So is your business able to provide delivery of products and services? So we're considering all of those things. Then we're trying to summarize those topics and those essentially what we're going to be doing, creating graphs, and then trying to represent the workload evenly throughout the team. So we have a nice picture for everybody so they can follow it and implement those new procedures or new items in the way that you'd like to. All right, so identify 4 ways of organizing work for maximum efficiency. So we could try and be, realistic about what we're trying to do and understand what our capabilities are. So there's no point in giving a job to somebody that is not at the level that that task requires. So we need to make sure that everything is scheduled properly. We put it in a planner, or we've got rosters going so everybody knows what their job roles are. We hand out job roles to the people that are working, so the staff that are working in the sections, they know what their job roles are for the day. We're not using any personal phones or emails or social media that could get us in trouble or keep us away from being busy. Whenever we get stumped with work or there's too much, we ask for help with our surrounding team members. We could try and organize our documentation and any work areas that we use so everything can be found easily. If we're using technology, so how can we better our processes? Instead of having invoices physically, we could ask for invoices digitally, so then we could find it with a search of a word or a search of a company, instead of having to open a folder, take a few minutes out of the day, and then trying to find that exact invoice. So transferring everything digitally, taking regular breaks. If we feel fatigued, that we try and take a break to bring ourselves back to a happy-go-lucky state so we can focus back on the work at hand. And then communicating clearly and working together in a team, I think. All right, so identify any 4 that I mentioned, and then once you're done with that, unpause the video and we can move on to the next one. 2.2, delegate work according to principles of delegation. So we need to remember the principles of delegation. So you should be able to draw upon the skills and knowledge of other members of your team. So make sure you understand what everybody's qualities and experience and skill sets are. It is also important to realize the limitations of your professional capabilities and ask for help when required. Delegation would be advisable when there are pressing tasks that you have to complete. Delegation should provide the opportunity for other team members to develop new skills and gain greater confidence in their abilities. So principles of delegation may relate to clear communication of what is required, gaining commitment, no undue interference, regular reporting, and selecting the right person. All right, specify 4 reasons for delegating tasks within your organization. Identify 4 principles of delegation. So if we're looking at the delegating work, so we're looking at, how to include everybody in the workplace, using everybody's knowledge and skill within that task, understanding what the limitations are of everybody, and then finding out who is best suited, delegating to the correct person, and making sure that whatever is like the task is most important is getting done first, and then allowing the people that I've delegated the topic or task to gain confidence in their abilities. So note down the 4 reasons what you could do and why we'd be delegating the task. So if we're thinking about it, we want these people to get promotions. We want them to be able to learn a new task. We want them to essentially, if we've got more important things to do, then them to take over things that they can easily complete, and we can move on to much more complex tasks so we can free up time for ourselves in the future. We can also allow them to develop themselves professionally in the career aspect and allow them to have more opportunities for promotions and other future goals. Maybe they can use this to create their own business, or it's just a learning activity so they can do this task in the future, so allowing them to have more shifts, things like that. All right, so identifying 4 principles of delegation. We're thinking about having clear communication, gaining commitment from and between each other, and making sure that we hit the specified goals and timeframes. We're not doing any undue interference that you don't really need. We're letting them kind of do it on their own, and then once they come back, we review it. We have regular reporting sessions, and not just pop up and say, hey, what's going on, but let's say every day we meet for 5 to 10 minutes and say, what's the progress? How can we move forward? Okay, so let's get back to work. They complete their task, and we go back to completing ours. And then essentially the most important part is selecting the right person for the job. So, you really need to understand, is that person capable of doing that task? So if they are, great. You can move forward, give them a task. As they grow, give them more tasks, and you move on to more complex tasks. Okay, so complete those. Unpause the video when you're ready, and we can move on to the next one. 2.3, assess workflow and progress against agreed objectives and timelines. Assessing business workflow. Different employees should be involved in the assessment of your business workflow. They may well have understanding of the process which aren't proving efficient or effective. Process mapping may be used for the evaluation of your business processes against agreed objective and timelines. Consider these assessment methods: workplace observations and discussions, product and service checks, employee challenges, external assessments, self-assessment. Identify 5 ways of assessing workflow and progress against agreed objectives and timelines. So, if we're thinking about 5 ways of assessing workflow, all right, we would first essentially conduct an assessment of ourselves. We would conduct an external assessment of the employees that are involved. We're also thinking about mapping out the process, how everything is going to work out, what sections are we going to include in the process. So process mapping is very important. So then we're observing the tasks being conducted, and then we'll talk about how effective they were. We'll talk about what we could do better and where we can improve. We're doing essentially then we're doing a product and service check on the items that we're producing or the service that we're producing, and then give a feedback internally to see where we can improve on. All right, so essentially we are looking at everything based on the time frame that we have. So we need to set a goal, and once we have our goal, we need to consider those aspects within the time frame and objectives. All right, so once you've completed that, move on to the next one. So remember, think about your process mapping. You're thinking about your internal and external assessments. We're thinking about any challenges that might come up. You're looking at the observations of the task. You're looking at having discussions and meetings on the new systems and tasks that have been implemented. And then you're doing a review or some sort of check for the products and services that you've created, and then come to an ultimate decision within the time frame that you've selected. Okay, so finish that, come back, and we'll move on to the next one. So assist colleagues in prioritizing workload through supportive feedback and coaching. Praise workers for their positive contributions and provide encouragement. The sense of positivity should be maintained when discussing potential improvements. You can make a positive difference by offering constructive feedback, focusing on the benefits of change. The feedback will ideally be open and honest. These skills should be demonstrated when coaching your colleagues. Respecting beliefs and perceptions, acting with empathy, actively listening, reflecting and clarifying points as necessary, asking questions about modification of behavior, providing opportunities for the testing of new working methods. Alright, so for this activity 2D, you should focus on key areas of performance and behavior demonstrated by your colleague. And then we've got identify 5 skills that should be demonstrated when coaching colleagues. So the first one, we're essentially going to be talking about how to positively review colleagues. We're going to talk about how we're going to give them feedback, how to acknowledge their contributions, how to be respectful in the way we acknowledge their contributions, respect their upbringing, the skills, the knowledge that they have previously, and we're going to be approaching it with active listening, anything like that. Okay, and the 5 skills that you should be demonstrating when coaching colleagues. All right, so you should be allowing your colleagues to give input in their activities, actively listening to what they have to say, using empathy within your coaching process. You should be reflecting and clarifying on anything that is confusing to you or to the team member. You should be asking questions and asking for suggestions on how you could modify the process to improve the output or improve the workers or the colleagues' work process and enjoyment. You should also be respecting their beliefs and perceptions, whether they're from a different culture or gender, whatever it might be, during that whole process, and then providing opportunities for them to test these new working tasks and things like that. So then they're able to give you constructive feedback. Okay, so note that down, complete those, and then we will move on to the next one. Alright, 2.5, provide timely input to appropriate management regarding staffing needs. So difficulty coping with customer demands, introduction of business legislation and new technology, unsatisfactory employee performance, expected business development and growth, retirement or relocation of staff members, failure to deliver promised service to customers, inadequate staffing. The staffing needs might be identified: full-time, part-time, permanent, temporary or casual staff, the number of staff, responsibilities and the competencies required or the skills that they need, self, other owners, family or friends that might be involved, subcontractors or external advisors or other consultants, the time commitment and the performance expectations for that task or activity. Approaching appropriate management. So various management personnel may be approached in accordance with the nature of your organization. So this could be your owner, your section supervisor or manager, your restaurant manager, could be a head chef, whatever it might be. In your work if you're working for a large company, it could be complicated in the way that they're structured. So you may be expected to discuss such issues with a head of department or human resource manager. However, there might be a single manager who assumes complete authority over staffing in a small organization, such as most restaurants. You'll have maybe one manager or one chef who you'd essentially have to report to and give your grievances to, any suggestions that you might have, things like that. So activity 2E, give 5 reasons for recommending the employment of new staff members. So this could, deal with if you don't have enough staff, so inadequate staffing. You could think about the growth of the business, so you need more staff as your business is growing. You could have new government legislations or laws that have been introduced, so you need skilled workers or workers with specific licenses. There could be people that are retiring or relocating, so you need new staff. You've got things such as parental leave for people, who've had kids, whether they're male or female, and you need to replace them. Maybe the staff member is, producing poor output, so you need to fire them and hire people that are adequate in that position. Maybe you need, new staff that essentially are willing to take newer responsibilities as your business has grown in specific areas, so you can branch out. Instead of hiring somebody for an old role, maybe you can hire somebody for a new role to grow the business in the future, things like that. So there's many reasons. Just identify 5 of them, and then should be enough. All right, so which members of management are you expected to approach regarding staffing needs of your organization? So this is more of a catered approach. So if you're a big business, you might need to approach a section manager or a HR department head of hiring or some sort. But if you're a smaller business, you could approach maybe your supervisor or manager or your head chef, right? So it just depends on how the business is. So make sure you include that part, because these things are very important dependent on how big the organization is. You might be one small section, or you might be the only section. So it just depends on your business and who is leading that team. So the leader in that position will be most likely responsible for hiring new people or implementing any corrective measures that might be needed. So yeah, it's a catered approach. You need to understand what sort of company you're working for, or what sort of company you have. All right, so complete that. When you're ready, come back and we can move on to the next one. Okay, 3.1. Monitor team and individual performance against agreed goals and objectives. Monitoring team performance. Team performance may be related to collaboration during projects and the manufacturing of products. You should consider the SMART goals that have been set as guidance for your employees. The achievement of such goals should be monitored and reviewed on a regular basis. You're advised to schedule regular meetings for the discussion of team performance. You should also pay attention to informal discussions between your team members. 360-degree assessments. So 360-degree assessments may be used for the thorough analysis and evaluation of employee performance. They provide the opportunity to gather information from multiple sources, including supervisors, colleagues, and subordinate workers. A mixture of open questions and performance rating scales may be included to establish strengths and weaknesses. Conducting individual performance evaluations. Individual performance evaluations must be conducted openly and fairly. The performance evaluation sessions should take the form of open discussions rather than dictations. Ask questions and let the workers explain the reasons for any decisions and actions. How can you address employee concerns about performance monitoring? Okay, so at 33A, how can you address employee concerns about performance monitoring? We're thinking about giving a monitoring process an alternative name. We're thinking about how can we apply it to the everyday process instead of having it be a big theme. If there are any issues, we need to sit down with the staff members to see why they might have issues that have been outlined. We could talk about what they could do in the potential future. We could also talk about what sort of, why it's creating an issue. So we could talk about future actions that we want to take with the employee, or specific guidelines or objectives that we need to set for them so that these issues can be rectified, and things like that. So note those things down. Use some of your own ideas why you think performance monitoring and how we can address employee concerns about performance monitoring. Okay, and let's move on to the next one. What are 360-degree assessments and how can they be used for evaluation of employee performance. So we're thinking about the 360-degree analysis and the evaluation of the employee. So it helps us gather, the information from a lot of sources. So instead of having one source to tell us why it's bad or good, we are able to go to different colleagues or different workers that have worked with them, use different sources, timesheets, any other, could be their performance, any video, any things like that, and using all those for the evaluation. And then we're using, encouraging words, and we're giving them guidelines and specific objectives, how to improve. We're using a mixture of open questioning and allowing to rate their performance, so then they understand how to get better. Instead of just us giving them a rating, we allowed them a chance to give themselves a rating, so we understand where they're coming from, if they think that they're actually doing really well, and ultimately it's not a job for them, or if they know that they're not doing well and what they could improve on, maybe they need more training, things like that. So once we've identified those issues, we need to focus on the strengths and weaknesses and really figure out how we can solve them. And then once those are done, we could schedule a follow-up meeting and a discussion, so then we can see how the worker or the employee is moving forward after the assessment has been done. Okay, so note that down and include any of your own ideas, and then move to the next question. So identify 4 rules that should be followed when conducting individual performance evaluations. So we could be thinking about making sure everything's confidential and nothing is leaked. We're making sure all employees use relevant documents, where that all employees are subject to the same evaluation process and not pick and choose who is evaluated in one way and others are not. We're allowing them to speak, allowing them to evaluate themselves as well, and not just dominating the conversation and only giving our opinion, but allowing them to give their opinion as well. We're also holding open discussions and having equal contributions, being respectful in that sense, being mindful of their disabilities or backgrounds. And then we're trying to remain objective and try and not discriminate against the employee as well. Okay, so state those, and then we can move on to the next one. So pause the video now, complete those questions, and we can move on to the next one. All right, 3.2, proactively share information, knowledge, and experiences with team members. Proactively sharing information. You should provide details of the professional roles and objectives of your organization. It is also important to share information regarding expected organizational change. You are advised to create a communication strategy which applies to the sharing of information within your organization. You should ensure that information is accessible and that it is shared in a timely manner. You might use the following types of communications, such as faxes, social media, newsletters, email, telephones, bulletin boards, intranet systems, face-to-face discussions, and forums. Knowledge and experiences may be shared in the following ways. So you could mentor somebody, publishing documents. You could, hold training sessions, and acting as a resource for newer employees so they can ask you questions and you can share your experiences. So activity 3B, identify 5 communication mediums that may be used for sharing information within your organization. So there's so many. You could use social media, email, newsletters, phones, text messages, bulletins, face-to-face discussions, forums, meetings, so many. Okay, so include 5, and then we'll move on to the next one. So specify 3 reasons for sharing knowledge and experiences with team members. So this could be, encouraging them to contribute, providing them an opportunity to, produce successes and not look back on their failures that they've done before. Maybe that trying to steer them away from failures because you've done mistakes, and you're letting them know, like, this is what happened when I did this, so I'm trying to steer you away from making the same mistakes that I have done. And then building positive relationships, so they understand that you are willing to share your knowledge with them if they come to you and ask you for help or any suggestions. Okay, so complete those, unpause the video when you're ready, and we can move on to the next one. 3.3, challenge and test ideas within the team in a positive and collaborative way. You should understand the importance of evaluating the pros and cons associated with any ideas that are contributed during team meetings. Criteria should be applied according to relative importance of the pros and cons. You should then carry out an analysis, give weighted scores to indicate which ideas should be implemented. A and B testing. The A/B testing method may be used for the evaluation of 2 or more ideas that are generated by your team members. It will be necessary to identify the ideas that you want to test and the variables which may have an impact on the test results. You will also need to consider the outcomes that you are hoping to achieve as a result of implementation. Encouraging collaboration. A collaborative culture should be developed if you are to establish employee perspectives on the business ideas. However, you should be aware that employees are equally unlikely to respond positively to forced collaboration, so you need it to be natural. The best way to inspire collaboration is to lead by example and allow the culture to develop naturally, and instead of forcing it. So should involve employees for different departments and attempt to generate a sense of collaboration. The following methods should be used for the challenging and testing ideas. So we're thinking about consideration of pros and cons, we're thinking about feasibility testing and A/B testing. Okay, so in this case, when you are doing the A/B testing method, maybe we're doing 2 or more ideas. We should be identifying the ideas and then test them, and then think about the variables that might come up, what impact that they might have, and any possible results that we could get. We should also consider the outcomes that we'll have, or what we're hoping to achieve at least, and see how far or close we are from the result, the actual result, and essentially plan a way to get to the ultimate desired ending from where we are now. It should be possible to also evaluate the pros and cons associated with your ideas. We're thinking about carry out, like an analysis and giving them scores of, which ideas should be implemented, maybe which ideas are good, which ideas are, on a scale of 1 to 10, what amount they hold. If they hold a 10, okay, this is how much benefit we're going to get. If they hold a 9, okay, this holds a little bit less benefit, but still possible. Things like that. Okay. We're also thinking about the benefits that we'll get if we're doing the feasibility test, to ensure if we can actually implement these ideas and if they're actually possible. It's great to say, okay, everybody's going to be flying in their cars, but is it physically possible? Does the technology exist? Can we implement it? Is it financially possible? Do we have the technology to do so? Do we have the knowledge to do so? Do we have the manpower to do so? If not, then we need to, be logical and bring it down to a grounded level, right? We're also looking at, while we're doing this, to be respectful to one another. We're making sure we're clarifying all ideas. You know, and the people that are having an input, they're all being able to they're allowed to have their ideas shared within the group. Everybody has an equal time to share their ideas, not just one person stealing the show. And also that everybody can criticize and give constructive feedback on the ideas instead of having it, shut down and essentially held back from any feedback. So we want to have feedback. We want to have constructive criticism. We want to have knowledge from a variety of locations. Okay, so note that down, and once you're done with that, use some of your own experiences that you've had in the class, and then we can move on to the next one. Okay, 3.4, provide feedback, coaching, and support to team members. So the provision of feedback can be extremely valuable, both to employees and the organization as a whole. Be aware that workers may feel anxious and daunted by the prospect of giving and receiving feedback. Avoid such negative reactions by establishing a sense of mutual respect and highlighting the value of feedback. Maximize the chances of success by focusing on the development and of confidence and skill levels within the team. Coaches may be expected to fulfill these requirements, providing professional guidance rather than instructions, enabling employees to develop skills and confidence, working towards the completion of agreed objectives, exploring workplace issues and enabling employees to identify solutions, building rapport and mutual respect, providing encouragement and inspiration, providing feedback regarding employee performance. Coaching and support may include giving advice on training and development opportunities, confirming organizational objectives and key performance requirements, ensuring the supply of adequate resources, offering opportunities for the discussion of work challenges, representing staff interests in other forums, supporting staff who are experiencing interpersonal problems. Okay, so identify 5 rules. So this is activity 3D. Identify 5 rules that should be followed when providing feedback about aspects of employee performance. So in this case, we're thinking about, listening with respect, balancing the positive and negative feedback, providing feedback that is specific and helpful and constructive, ensuring all your feedback and tasks are done timely and that they're not at an odd time. You're making sure that you're listening to the employee and responding back respectfully and corresponding to whatever problems that they may have. You're using I statements, and you're doing it respectfully. You're having privacy, and you're maintaining all these respectful manner. You're making sure as well that you're in a private environment and that it's not bothering anybody else or you when you're doing this session. Okay, so include the 5 rules, and then we'll move on to the next one. So number 2, specify 5 requirements that coaches may be expected to fulfill. So you could be expected to build a rapport and mutual respect between your team. You could be expected to provide encouragement, create inspiration within your team. You're also thinking about, okay, how do I enable my employees to take their own steps? So you're allowing them to develop the skills and the confidence instead of just saying this is what you have to do. You're allowing them to come up with specific ideas that could push their skill levels forward. You're enabling them to use their own knowledge and skill within the task. And you're also providing professional guidance and not just instructions. You're encouraging them within those tasks, providing feedback regarding the performance and what they could be doing in the future, offering support for future instances of training or coaching sessions, or if they need help in the future, allowing them to come to you and not being restrictive or make you very uneasy to get a hold of. Make yourself more approachable in that sense. Supporting them and assisting them on an everyday basis, keeping communication and keeping your touch with them regularly. Okay, so note down 5 things that you think are very important there. Use some of your own ideas, and then we can move on to the next one. All right, so 3.5, complete and submit organization records as required. So sections include an employee in performance reports, purpose of employees' roles, level of success in meeting agreed objectives, evaluation of key skills and knowledge, recommendations for training and professional development, new employee objectives, additional issues which need to be addressed. Remember 4 key rules of record keeping. So useful. Your record should be specific to the functions of your business and the job role. Easy to use. The record should be accessible and understandable. Accurate. All of the information contained within your record should be accurate. Compulsory. You should comply with any legislation related to record keeping in your industry or in the country. Record management. You will be expected to follow organizational procedures within your business. The records may be filled in alphabetical, numerical, geographic, or chronological order. The filing system should be relatively basic and accessible, shouldn't be complex. Paper-based records should ideally be kept in secure filing cabinets. You are also likely to make use of secure computer systems to store soft copies of any documents or invoices that you might have. All right, so activity 3E, you should follow the organizational procedures and ensure that all relevant information is included. It will also be necessary to file the report in accordance to organizational expectation. So here you are expected to do a performance report for a member of the organization. So in the performance report, I want you to pick out a student in the classroom, and we want to think about so these things, this is what we want to note down. So we want to note down the employee's role, okay, so this could be a chef or a cook or a kitchen hand, right? Then we're thinking about the level of success in meeting agreed objectives. So if there is a chef, how quickly are they producing food? What is the level of quality that they're producing? How nice is their plating method? How clean is their workstation? Are they producing a lot of waste? Are they quickly producing the foods, or are they taking too long? Are they easy to work with? Things like that. Okay. Evaluation of their skills and knowledge. Do they have a lot of food knowledge? Do they have a lot of skills? Are they good at cutting? Are they good at cooking? Are they good at cleaning? Are they good at creating new menus? Are they good at computer systems? Things like that. So note those things down. All right. All right. Recommendation for training and professional development. So let's say if you've got a really classically trained chef, yes, great. They have a lot of knowledge in their brain, but they don't have any experience using computers. So now you need to say, okay, we need to get John to get some training on how to use iPads and computers so he can use our point of sale system. So let's say if somebody's out of the dining hall, he can come out and take orders or take money from the customers. All right, so any objectives that we might have for him, so we should outline, okay, he should, by 2020, he should be able to manage all systems electronically within the company. Or if we'd say by 2020 he needs to complete a first aid certificate by the end of 2020. So we need to note those training or professional development tasks. And any other issues that you might say, okay, he's not good at English, maybe he wants to improve, okay, we'll send him to a English language class. Or let's say if he is wanting to upskill and become a baker, maybe we send him to bakery school. Or he wants to learn how to be a manager, we send him to management school, whatever it might be. Okay, so note those down in a report form, and while you're doing that, make sure you're using the right terms and in a structured and sequenced way. Okay, so pick a person, and the ideas that I have given you, use those or use your own from your workplace, and then create an evaluation for this activity. Note down what you would usually do, so the employee's role, what sort of objectives are they doing and where are they lacking, and evaluation of their current skills and knowledge and what they should be doing to improve themselves, any recommendation of training, any objectives that you give them to follow for the future, and then any other issues that you might notice, maybe to do with their English, to do with their writing, whatever you want them to focus on. Okay, so complete that, come back once you're done, and then we can move on to the next one. Okay, 4.1. Identify and analyze workplace problems from an operational and customer service perspective. Workplace problems. There are a wide variety of operational problems which may have a negative impact on your organization. You are advised to focus on the root cause rather than the obvious effects of such problems. Identify the exact nature of the problem. Consider the events which led to the problem and any environmental factors which have had an effect. Workplace problems may include delays and time difficulties, difficult customer service situations, equipment breakdown or technical failure, failure to deliver promised service to customers, inadequate financial resources, inadequate staffing, poor rostering, poor staff performance, procedural inadequacies or failures. Activity 4A, we'll need to identify and analyze problems which we are having an impact on the operation of the business. So carry out the root cause analysis, investigate the issues in accordance with organizational expectations. So in this case, we're looking at things such as the operational problems. So we're thinking about what negative impacts that we're facing. We're looking at, so the first step that we'd be looking at is taking apart the problem and going to the root of the problem and identifying the exact issue that we have within the business. Then we're considering any obvious and observable problems within the organization. So this might be with staff, equipment, whatever it might be. Then we're trying to gather as much information as possible from everybody around, from videos, recordings, anything that we could use as a source. Then we should be attempting to find out whether the problem is, how long it's been, if it's a consistent problem or it can be solved by doing a specific thing, and why it's reoccurring. Then we're talking to all the staff members and we're consulting them about the problem, how we can solve it and move forward. We also need to think about the environmental impacts of our possible solutions. We also need to think about what factors could we face in the future for implementing any specific solutions, and what ideally would be the best possible solution. So we need to think about specific tasks in the business. So if we're thinking, okay, we have a breakdown of the dough machine, okay, so we're using this regularly, at least twice a day, and every day we have a breakdown. We need to then open up the part and then oil it, and then, okay. So can this be fixed with maintenance? Okay, no. Okay, can this be fixed with what we're doing now, and is this costing us too much? Yes. Okay, maybe we're using too much labor. All right, will ordering a new dough machine solve the problem? Okay, no, maybe it's a circuit problem. Okay, no, maybe it's a location problem, and this has always happened. Whenever we've bought the equipment, this is always a consistent malfunction. Okay, so maybe it's not a problem, maybe it's the solution that is a constant. So this solution must always be needed. So even if we get a new equipment, we always need to do this solution. Okay, maybe it will just be an easy solution of just buying a new dough machine or mixer, right? So then we have to think, okay, if we have to buy a new one, can we dispose of the old one? Can we dispose of it in a environmentally friendly manner? Can we give it to somebody who can recycle and repurpose the equipment? Or is it much more environmentally friendly for us to fix the equipment instead of buying newer ones? Alright, so that's just an example. Use your own ideas for that one if you have them, and then complete that. And let's go on to number 2. Give 5 examples of problems which may be encountered in your workplace. So there's so many. So running out of food, unhappy customers, delays or time difficulties, breakdown of any equipment or technical issues, failure to produce the item that we said we would. So now we have to think about how we're going to rectify the situation. Not having enough financial resources, not having enough staff, poor rostering situations, the procedures not being sound and being not proper for the situation, and then having unrealistic expectations of your workforce to where it might not be able to be done with few staff members, or most people are not skilled. It might be a training issue. There's so many. So just give me 5 examples that you've encountered at the workplace that you might be a problem, and then once you're done, come back and we can move on to the next one. So 4.2, initiate short-term actions to resolve immediate problems where appropriate. 4.3, analyze problems for long-term impact and assess and action potential solutions in consultation with relevant colleagues. Short-term actions. Solutions may be used on a temporary basis. Until you have carried out a thorough analysis and developed longer-term resolutions, you will have to establish the exact nature of any problems and the effect that they are having on your organization. You should attempt to identify and develop short-term solutions in everybody's best interests. The next step will be to come up with a list of viable short-term solutions. So 8D problem-solving method. So we're looking at planning, then building the team, describing the problem, implementing a short-term solution, identifying and addressing the root causes, verifying the solution, implementing the long-term solution, minimizing the risk of reoccurrence, and then celebrating success. Methods of resolution of business problems. So 6 Sigma, 5 Whys, fishbone diagrams, 5-step approach we can use, and failure mode effects and analysis. So the concept of 6 Sigma is, it's a statistical kind of process. You're looking at data-driven approach to the improvement and elimination of any defects or any problems within the company. You're looking at going through the defining the problem, then creating measures to solve that, analyze how you've done, and then you're looking at things such as how to control those problems and how to improve them going forward. So, you're going through define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, right? So if we're going to use the 5 why technique, we're thinking about the same kind of, let's say we're looking at why is this happening? Why is that exact problem happening? Then why? So it's just why, right? So you then ultimately end up to a core problem when you keep asking questions, right? So you want to ask those 5 questions there. Okay. All right. So outline the process of initiating short-term actions for the resolution of immediate problems within your organization. Consider the involvement of staff members and identification of appropriate problem-solving methods. So in this case, we're going to be using formal, informal methods. We're going to be looking at the nature of the issue. We're going to get to the core aspect of it before deciding on an appropriate solution. Then we're going to figure out what effects it's having with the people, the equipment, the business. We're going to be including the staff members and ask them their perspectives on the matter. We're going to develop short-term solutions that includes everybody's best interest. We need to listen to all employees and consider all of their concerns. We also need to think about how much time we're going to be spending on that approach. We don't want to spend too much time. We want to be, going through the planning stage. We want to have, thinking of building a team, then describing a problem, and then implementing that short-term solution. So if we're thinking of the 8D problem, so we're planning, building a team, and then describing the problem, implementing a short-term solution, identifying and addressing the root causes, verifying the solution, implementing the long-term solution, minimizing the risk of reoccurrence, and then celebrating the success. So we want to be able to implement that process there as well. Okay, so so jot those ideas down for that question. Include the 8D problem solving method in there, and then we can move on to the next one. So identify 5 methods that can be used for the resolution of problems which may have a long-term effect. So we're using the 5 whys or the 6 sigma process. We can use the fishbone diagrams, the 5-step approach, or the failure mode effects analysis. So just jot down those 5 and we can move on to the next one. So complete that question, complete that activity, unpause the video, and we'll move on to the next one. All right. Where a team member raises a problem, encourage individual participation in solving it. So encouraging individual participation in problem solving. Anybody who raises organizational issues should be encouraged in discussion about the potential causes and means of resolution. They should be invited to team meetings and brainstorming sessions. Their ideas and recommendations should be respected and taken into due consideration. Consider the following advantages of independent problem solving: rapid and focused resolution of problems, accountability and responsibility for actions, reduced need for investments of time and money. So activity 4C, identify 3 advantages of independent problem solving. So like we've mentioned just before, we're thinking about reducing the need for investments of time and money. We're trying to think about the accountability and responsibility for the actions that we take, and we're trying to focus on a solution and create a rapid solution for the problems. So essentially, independent problem solving allows you to rapidly focus on solutions, having accountability and responsibility for your actions, and reducing the need for investments of time and money within that solution. So complete that. Once you're done, come back and we can move on to the next one. 4.5. Take follow-up action to monitor effectiveness of solutions. Monitoring the effectiveness of solutions. Monitor and evaluate the implementation of problem-solving methods. Assess the impact on your organization and individual employees. Maintain a record of the effects and any problems that have been encountered. Learn from any mistakes. Aim for a process of continuous improvement. Your follow-up in the workplace can include things like observation, future assessments, performance monitoring. All right, so now we're on to 4D. So identify 4 aspects that should be considered when evaluating the effectiveness of solutions. So we're looking at how do we minimize the cost to the business? How do we include all employees in the consultation process? And do all employees have a role and responsibility within that solution? Is the resource being used effectively? Can we avoid any side effects or damage to the organization with this new solution? And what sort of success have we achieved within the designated time frame? So you want to list those aspects there. And let's move on to the next one. Give 3 examples of follow-up actions that may be taken. So, we'd be observing the staff, we'd be monitoring their performance, we'd be giving them objectives for the future, and then sitting down with them and having review sessions. So things like that. So list 3, and then we can move to the next one. So this is your last activity. So I'm guessing your learner workbook will be complete by now. Submit that to your trainer. If you have any questions or you're stuck anywhere, feel free to revisit the video at any point. You can replay any sections and take as long as you need to complete the sections, as long as it's within reasonable time frame. Get in touch with your trainer if you have any questions. Feel free to email me or ask me the questions in person if you'd like. My email is admin@wisemaneducation.com.au. So the next thing that you'd be doing is essentially the multiple choice, which is online. Then what you need to do moving forward is your knowledge, skill, and performance assessments, which your trainer will guide you through and conduct in a timely manner. So if you need to give me any feedback or if you want to ask me any questions, don't hesitate to do so. Just send me an email through at admin@wisemaneducation.com.au, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.